A man has died and 10 people, including 5 children, were rescued after a landslide as Storm Bert battered the UK. Weather warnings remain in place in parts of England, Scotland and Wales this morning. A man in his 60s was killed when a tree hit his car on the A34 in Hampshire. And in North Wales, 5 adults were rescued after that landslide. Liz Perkins is a reporter in Llanelli. Good morning, Liz.
Good morning, how are you?
Yes, very well, thank you. So this rescue sounds like quite dramatic. They were rescued from a house, I believe, 5 adults and 5 children.
That's correct, yes. It was near Llangollen, actually. And what's so surprising is it all happened in the middle of the day. So it was nearly 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And all this flood water has got into their home and debris, and the damage that is caused to the property has been substantial. What emergency services are saying is that kind-hearted individuals have come to their rescue and offered accommodation, like a holiday let, to the family. So I think there's about 2 have been offered, and obviously they are trying to keep them safe and warm right now. But they also had a report of a further landslide as well. But luckily, in that case, there wasn't any issues like that. I mean, you don't really expect such a problem to be caused, do you?
Indeed. And there's flooding reported elsewhere, particularly in parts of Carmarthenshire.
Yeah, I mean, Carmarthenshire is always the place that's at risk of flooding. I mean, we always see, the River Cothi is always a problem, the River Tawe in Carmarthen as well. I mean, the water levels are always so high anyway in just like normal flooding conditions. So you can imagine if you've got properties just down by the quay there, it's going to be a real problem for you. It's also spread those alerts to the River Tawe in Swansea and also the River Lacha as well, which is in just outside Llanelli, actually. So and inevitably the River Severn is always on high alert in times like this. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be an issue with trying to get across, one of the crossings on the Severn, as you can imagine.
Yeah, well, the Severn Bridge was closed, wasn't it, I think, the connection between Gloucestershire and South Wales. And indeed, there were lots of cancellations on ferries as well.
Well, can you imagine? I mean, it's always very much a challenge getting across the Irish Sea at the best of times. And but I really wouldn't fancy doing that today from Fishguard. So it's just been very, very difficult. I mean, the advice that we're all getting is to batten down the hatches, as you can imagine. But these flood warnings are obviously a major concern, and you just don't know what's going to happen next, especially, given that the wind speeds hit about 81 miles per hour up in North Wales. So, I mean, and the level of rain they've had as well was about 64.4 millimetres in a short period of time. So it's going to be interesting to see how today sort of pans out, and hopefully everybody manages to stay safe.
Yeah. Liz, thank you very much. Good to speak to you this morning. Liz Perkins reporting from Llanelli in South Wales. Let's hear now from Davy Shanks, reporter in Aberdeenshire. Morning, Davy.
Good morning.
So I think the consensus is there was even more snow than anticipated across Scotland yesterday.
Yeah, really heavy snow, particularly across central Scotland, making travel a real problem. Police Scotland essentially told people just don't travel at all. It's too dangerous. We had widespread disruption up and down the roads, particularly as people were travelling to try and get to football matches. As a result, just worrying about the safety of people trying to get around. A number of those kickoffs were either cancelled or delayed to try and help people get there safely as well. The picture sort of has been not just heavy snow, but into later on yesterday, as temperatures started to rise, we got a lot of that snow melt, standing water, flooding, the risk of water on top of hard packed ice as well, just making it slightly more treacherous. Quite a lot of disruption on the rails as well. Jeremy Corbyn unable to make a pro-Palestine march in Glasgow as well. So there could be more disruption on the rails as well. So always worth checking ahead of travelling.
Yeah, there were questions about public transport networks, particularly in Edinburgh. I saw loads of videos of Lothian buses struggling in snow and slushy conditions and then suspending all of its 70 routes around Edinburgh.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is just the combination of heavy rain after such a deep freeze, making it incredibly challenging. Just in the estate where I live in the northeast of Scotland, just watching people trying to get out of their driveways on places that haven't been salted, as the number of routes that get treated is cut down, then you end up in that really, really difficult position where people just can't get any traction on the roads. And obviously that's what we saw in Edinburgh with the buses struggling to get anywhere. And I think about 70 cancellations on Lothian just meaning public transport, not an option for people getting around, and pretty treacherous to walk too.
Yeah, and in news which will surprise no one, Calmac had to cancel ferry services off the west coast of Scotland, albeit for weather this time rather than self-inflicted chaos. Davey,
well, yes, there's the warning coming for the Western Isles as well later on. Heavy winds expected as well. Calmac this morning, once again, warning that a number of their routes could be disrupted, delayed, cancelled, or rerouted as well this morning. So take a look if you're travelling that way too.
And what's the forecast more generally? Is it still bad across the country through the rest of today?
Yes, I'm afraid so. We've got a weather warning here in the east of Scotland, so we're expecting some heavy rain, up to 4 centimetres in some places. And when you add that to the snow melt, the standing water, everything, it's looking pretty miserable. But across the Western Isles, the western coast of Scotland as well, some really, really heavy winds, 75 miles an hour in those really exposed places, 55 miles an hour. Gusts probably a bit more common too. So really, really blustery in the west and just really miserable and rainy here in the east.